This forest is allegedly filled with snakes. It's a forest that has it all, from the venomous timber rattlesnake to the completely harmless milk snake. But what's it really like to spend a full 24 hours in such a snake-infested environment? To find out, I went exploring, flipped every rock I could find, and drove down every single road in the forest. I did all of this with the goal of finding snakes and any other fascinating animal that calls this forest home. Just like this eastern fence lizard that I found at the first location on the first day. Eastern fence lizards, like this one, are found throughout eastern North America east of the Mississippi River. Their preferred habitat is dry wooded hillsides, which is exactly where I found this one. Definitely an awesome way to kick off the day. I came back to this spot later on to see if I could find anything in the middle of the night. But until then, I flipped all of the rocks on the side of this hill. Under one of the rocks here, I found another eastern fence lizard, but right next to it there was a northern black widow. They are venomous, but I wasn't going to handle it, so I was completely safe. I flipped a few rocks right next to the road, and under this one, I found my first snake of the day.
Oh, what are you?
The snake threw me off at first because it was one I've never found before, and it was about to shed, so it was kind of hard to see what color it was. This is a northern rough green snake.
That's pretty cool. That's a lifer for me.
A lifer is a species I've never found before, and honestly I wasn't expecting to find my first one under a rock because they spend a majority of their life up in trees.
That tail is so long. Alright, let's get you back, buddy. Awesome. So what I'm currently doing is driving down some of these dirt roads and keeping my eyes peeled for any rocks that I can flip.
I was also looking for any snakes or turtles crossing the road.
Rocks.
These rocks looked very promising from the road.
First rock. Nothing.
Most of them had nothing but dirt underneath, but that wasn't the case for all of them. Underneath this rock, I found something super cool.
That's lifer number 2 on the day. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The end of his tail kind of stabs a little bit.
There are 2 likely explanations for why this snake has a pointy tail, but before I get into that, this is a common worm snake. Their name comes from the fact that they kind of look like worms, they eat worms, and they live a life that's very similar to worms. They spend most of their life burrowing in the ground and like to hang out under things like rotting logs and rocks. From what I've read, they're most active during the spring and fall, so it's pretty cool to be able to find one this late in the summer. Now about their pointy tail. Biologists have 2 different ideas of what it's used for. The first is that it's used like a fork to position its food, and the second is that they use it to stab predators. Now, speaking from experience, I think it might be the second one. Under the next rock, I found this big grub. These are the larval form of a beetle, but I'm not sure of what species. It's still pretty cool, and next to it there was a smaller grub. I kept on driving, trying to find more snakes, but instead I found some deer.
So I've put in a good effort during the daytime today. As you can see, the sun behind me is starting to set, but my search for snakes is just getting started.
There's a fascinating phenomenon that links the change in seasons with a snake's activity pattern. As cold-blooded animals, snakes rely on external heat to regulate their body temperature. While warmth is essential for their mobility, extreme heat can be just as limiting. In some regions, summer temperatures can get dangerously high. This leads to some snakes that are normally diurnal or active during the day to shift to a more nocturnal schedule to avoid the scorching sun. But that's not everything. The roads in this forest also play an interesting role in all of this. The asphalt absorbs and retains the heat from the sun, essentially turning the roads into giant heating rocks. As evening falls and the surrounding air cools, the pavement remains warm, creating an inviting environment for snakes to gather, absorb heat, and prepare for a long night of hunting. With all of this in mind, I once again took to the roads. I brought all of the essentials for hunting snakes in the nighttime.
Headlamp.
When there was no sunlight left, the snakes came out.
First snake of the night. An eastern garter snake. I saw him just crossing. At first I thought he was a stick, and then when I backed up I saw it move and I was like, nah, that's a snake for sure. Pretty cool. I mean, as far as garter snakes go.
This is an eastern garter snake. They're harmless to humans, but they do tend to get this bad smelling liquid all over your hands, and sometimes they bite. It doesn't hurt though.
Let's let him go. There you go, buddy. Off the road he goes.
I kept moving up and down the roads, and from my driver's seat, I found what I thought was going to be the biggest snake of the night.
Stick.
I was wrong. Then,
Another snake. Oh, here's a little decay's brown snake.
unlike the Australian snake with a similar name, this guy is non-venomous and completely harmless. They spend their days and nights hunting down slugs and snails. The species is known for being active during the day in the spring and fall when it's cooler out, and switching to a more nocturnal lifestyle in the hot summer months. I helped it move across the road, and I kept driving for another few hours, but with very little luck. So I made my way to the campsite, and when I stopped at the bathroom, I found this big garter snake hanging out under the wall. It just goes to show how many snakes are here in this forest. They're even hiding out in the bathrooms.
Here's my setup for the night. It's kind of just a bunch of blankets stacked on top of each other in my back seat, but it'll do. Barely fit. And there's a small crack in the window right there for air. Sure would be a shame if a snake found its way through that.
One absolutely terrible night's sleep later, and it's officially day 2 in the snake-infested forest. The game plan for the day was simple. Cruise around and look for snakes that were still out on the prowl from the night before, and flip as many rocks as I possibly can. You're probably thinking, hey, isn't that the exact same thing that you did the day before? And the answer is no, this time it's different. This time, it's a Wednesday. I continued this for several hours, and that's how I found this spider, this mushroom that was covered in bugs, a cicada on a stick that didn't seem to care that I picked it up, which was pretty cool because I've never seen one of these up close like this. And then under one of the rocks, I found these 2 salamanders. Both of these are northern dusky salamanders, a fairly common and widely distributed species. I find them often, but still super cool. And after an entire day of driving around, I found something extremely disappointing.
Man, this really sucks. This is the same snake as I found yesterday, except this one is an adult, and unfortunately it was hit by a car. Still a very beautiful snake. Extremely unfortunate. I'm gonna move it into the grass. Man, that sucks.
Calling a forest snake-infested is a little bit misleading. They naturally belong here. It's kind of like saying that our cities are infested with humans. Where else should they be? Out here in the woods, it's important to remember that I'm the one stepping into their world.